Welcome to See Beneath Your Beautiful, where guests share stories of adversity and perseverance, which inspire, encourage, and challenge us. We embrace these tough conversations, intimately exploring our loves, fears, and hopes with a delicious combination of depth and lightness.
Hi, I am Jenna Smith. I live in Ontario, Canada, and I have been interested in being not broken for quite some time. So as a young girl, I always knew there was another way, but I thought something was wrong with me. So that led me to becoming a spiritual psychotherapist. I actually started off wanting to be the next Celine Dion, but we can talk about that later. My whole path, I was in a car accident when I was 15, was about what can I do to be my fullest expression within really difficult conditions. So when I was 15 with a car accident, that led to studying Reiki, energy medicine, later learning from a shaman mentor, and then becoming the psychotherapist so that I had a professional role. And then as I was a psychotherapist, I knew I didn't want to just talk about being broken and categorize people. I really wanted to create from a soul place of our fullest expression and actually be that on the planet as an experience. And that led me to a training called ontological coaching. And that is a much deeper type of coaching that isn't like, what did you do this week? And how's your self-care? And all that stuff's great. But I am like a human recalibrator where I help align people back to their original wholeness that's already there, that's no fixing, so that they can be it 24/7 without me. It really is about realigning people, educating, and being the support that wasn't there when they had those challenges like I had when I was younger. Because then you can recalibrate trauma rather than carry it with you as a really heavy backpack and survive in spite of things. I'm really all about taking all that energy and making it usable so you can create and you can be more present and more alive and receive more.
At 15, did you know all that? You were self-aware enough, you're saying, that you knew you could fix you? Is that what you're saying?
I heard intuitive breadcrumbs that were like, the doctor's like, oh, you're never going to heal. And I'm like, no, that's not true. But how wasn't clear yet. Mm-hmm. Like the world of synchronicity of something comes out of left field, but it's also exactly perfect. And we're just talking about it yesterday. And now it's there, or it's on a billboard, and you see it in repetition. So that world, I think because I was into nature and singing, my spirit stayed in my body through a lot of trauma. Mm. And that's a huge part of recalibrating trauma, is that once you feed your spirit and you turn on your light and you keep turning up your own lantern, you can hear those breadcrumbs rather than being in the hellish world of minefields and funhouse mirrors of living in your head, which most traumatized people pop into to survive and to protect themselves. But that's why there's so much suffering. Anxiety, depression, all of that can be just a mind dominant, stuck in your head, but you don't have access to the resource of your body because something hurt at some point. You don't have the access to your heart center. You don't have the access to spirit because we're in a very spirit devoid culture. So it's not your fault that you don't have access to the resources you were born with. But my journey at that time was feeling the BS breadcrumbs as well. Like, I don't think that's true. Some part of me was like, no, that's not true. I don't know what the option is yet. I don't know the solution yet. Now at age 40, I do. And I train and educate people because I'm very passionate about that, to return to your nature. The seed has what it needs inside of it. Even if there's a storm, it still has what it needs inside of it. So even as people seek to fix their lives, that can become an addiction versus re-entering your wholeness.
Mm. Is that what it means to recalibrate?
Yeah, I would say trauma isn't what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you. It didn't digest. It got stuck, right? Mm-hmm. So to recalibrate it is to turn that occurrence into usable energy versus stuck energy that weighs on you, that takes energy to stay there, that then you create protective mechanisms on top of it to protect it, and off you go. So to recalibrate that is to turn that into usable energy, all to get back to presence and to start to feel safe with presence. And that includes the unknown, because you're not afraid of the unknown anymore because you're present.
Byron Katie said that she was held up at gunpoint And instead of being scared, she decided to be present and go, well, if this is the last of my life, I'm not going to miss it. And I just flew home from Kentucky yesterday and the plane did this terrible shake. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be present for this. I'm going to look out the window. And if this is the last moments of my life, and I just love that she taught me that.
I love that too.
Let's be here for this.
Well, then you can still be scared, but you didn't check out.
I did not check out. I'm really happy that I have that mind to be present. I think the now is the answer. And also questioning, not knowing what's going to happen next is the way to stop your suffering. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. And we both agree that it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because suffering is a choice, right? Pain is going to happen.
Right.
The oh my gosh, and the spinning and the crunching and the suspicion, and yeah, you can live that way or not.
You keep talking about energy. Tell me about that, how we harness it, what we can do with it. What about energy?
Fun question. We only have an hour. Okay.
The Reader's Digest version of energy.
So we're these animals, but we also have consciousness and imagination and the ability to be self-aware as animals. So the energy part would be, because we have that consciousness, we're not just a feral animal that's like running off of instinct alone and running off of biological imperative alone, but we are still. So as we start to tune into energy and start to realize we're affected by energy, the full moon, water, other people's moods, we're far more connected than we think. So when we live from our head, that keeps us separate. But the energetics has information for us. It has energy in the energy. So if you hold back emotion, it's like holding beach balls underwater. So as we can start to be tuned into energy, we can go, oh, this is like kind of like our car. Like there's an indicator, like there's something to pay attention to. So if we learn to pay attention to energy, it's all intangible. The way we pay attention to energy is our body is a receiver. Our heart center is a receiver. Our mind is a receiver. But then we, that game telephone, like it gets all garbled because our receivers aren't clear. So we're always taking in energy, but we're often misinterpreting it. And then we don't know what to do with it. So that's most people's experience of energy. But the opportunity is to tune into your receivers, learn how they work, learn that it's really not that complicated, like how to feel sensations, how to pause and go, if this could speak, what would it say? How to start to feel the sensation of your mind spinning and you're in high beta brainwaves and you're like, and then you go, whoa, whatever road I want to run down to fix the thing, or like whatever revenge fantasy is going on in my head, or whatever like worthlessness thing that you're playing in your head, to just stop. And you start to discern really from the symptoms and the sensations and the data, I call it, you can start to tune into your energy without it being some mystical, metaphysical thing. It's right here. All of our receivers, all of our trillions of cells are receivers for data that is there to help you be more you and help you navigate whatever is arising.
What kind of work do you do to help somebody do that?
Is an extension, the resourcing method that after becoming a psychotherapist and doing energy work and doing the coaching and then having my own business and navigating, becoming an adult in a weird, disconnected world and like navigating, like we're a very disconnected society. So all of the experience and having a very empowered, successful real world life, and not just being like, I speak to angels in the corner and have fire ceremonies, like to have this integrated, empowered life in the real world while not leaving and losing myself. I say that on purpose because there's like the real world. And then there's like, oh my God, love. And we all love each other. And like lions dance with zebras. Like there's like a world, our loving, cute, innocent parts of ourselves that don't want to feel pain also want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've navigated that. So how to tune people back to between all of that training and all of my life experience, what works for me, and then not just what works for me. So that stops being interesting once you've found something. How does it work for other people? I don't care if I figured something out. Like, can I help someone else get there? And over the past 10 years, I have been able to tune into your body. Your body is a major resource. And most people, if they've been through something crappy, will have left their body connections because it was too hard and you didn't have the resources to deal with the challenge at the time. So the whole premise of the resourcing method is that your resources need to match your challenge. So we're all mostly operating on 25% of our potential resources. And that makes us feel broken and that makes us feel weak. And then we lose our power and then that becomes our identity. And it's not who we are. It's just what's happened.
Yeah.
To tune into your resources that are not contingent on money. They're not contingent on oracle cards. They're not contingent on essential oils. They are yours. They are your body, your heart, managing your mind, managing the voices in your head, learning how to discern all of that data that's you, that's who you are, will allow you to self-heal. It's really hard to do this alone. So when I work with clients one-on-one, and I'm starting to do a lot more group coaching to get this to more people. But particularly, I do very deep, lasting transformation with one-on-one clients where at the end of it, they're like, oh, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, this is who I always was. And everything they weren't has fallen away because of consistently tuning back into the resources you are that bring you into presence. This is the thing. Get your receivers cleared off by increasing these resources. So to tune into your body, to tune into your heart, to come back online is challenging. And you feel like you're lost in an abyss and going down a hallway that you don't know which way you're going, like you're in the dark. So when you're going through a transformation like that, the way I see someone like myself as a guide, and I had my own guides, thank goodness, to go through those kind of hallways where everything you've known no longer applies or works. Very disconcerting. So this is like, everyone talks about the butterfly and like, then you come out and it's like sunshine and roses. No, it's dark. You're in a cocoon. You're goo. That's what real transformation feels like. But then, now you've let go of what no longer serves you. Now you've unclenched from the thing that happened when you were 5.
Right.
And it's so hard to do alone, but we can resource alone. We can develop these resources on our own. And then that allows us to be primed to know where to go, not from our mind, not from the noise, not because Oprah says so, to discern from a level of deep intelligence from creation itself, the opportunities to become a creator and not a reactor.
All the answers are within me. Mm-hmm. I believe that's true. I feel it in my heart. I know I'm powerful.
Yes.
I know I'm perfect the way I am, still improving, but still also just right where I'm supposed to be at this moment. And I appear as this now. This is who I am this minute. So not to want something different. But what do you say to people who have suffered so much trauma or believe they've suffered so much that they could never stop suffering and don't know who they are without that story? How do you help that person? Or can you?
Yes, that was me. I actually just took a recent client that I was like, wow, I have no idea if this is going to work.
Okay.
And I told him that. And I said, you're not my typical client. Like he's so in his head. He will argue with me. I don't normally take people like that. I'm like, dude, but then my spirit, as I said, leaning into spirit doesn't always give you the answers you want. Like my trip to Peru and connecting with the shamans in Peru, I didn't want to do that. That wasn't like a vision board thing. You know, people have all these Instagram pictures on Machu Picchu. This was before all of that. It was inconvenient and it wasn't a goal of mine. Mm-hmm. So, you know, your spirit doesn't care if you agree with what your spirit directives are, but that's where we get caught. So yes, I have done it myself. I have come from childhood trauma where my dad went to jail. It was like all over the news. I'm in a small town, 8,000 people. So I'm like 11, 12 at that point. My brother was extremely emotionally abusive and called me a fat, disgusting piece of shit every day since I was 9. So that made me feel like a fat, disgusting piece of shit because this was the only dad I was getting. And then my mom was just checked out. She was traumatized too. So I felt like completely alone. I'm broken. And then I would venture out to the world and people seemed to think I wasn't broken. And then I'm like, okay, they like me. Is it because I'm funny? Is it because I'm this? Like it obviously has to be a manufacturing of sorts because if they really knew me, they'd see I'm broken. And so that starts that whole thing, which is why I work with high achievers because usually they feel so broken. They also do what I did, which is like, I'm going to be the best singer and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to be skinny and all the things. So I get it. And I felt the only truth I had was that I am broken. And that's what shame is, the belief that you are inherently unworthy, that it's a moving target. Even if you're loved, you still feel like you're unworthy. And even if you get the body you think you want, and even if you get the things, it still never lands. Mm-hmm. In my 20s, I was gifted with I have all the things. I had the football player boyfriend, and I was singing, and I had a record deal, and I was a fitness model. Like, I had this like wonderfully 24-year-old midlife crisis, which was perfect. So like I had all the things, because really I thought if I was Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell, then my life would be perfect. Mm-hmm. Is right. Like that's what now I know people know my age for sure right now.
I'm a little older than you, so I know Saved by the Bell, but I don't think I ever watched it.
She was the popular girl.
Oh, okay.
I was the broken fat girl because I had chronic pain. So I wasn't able to like do exercise and stuff. So for people, for whatever their story is, I want to kindly say it's going to feel true. And there's no point in ripping off the Band-Aid if it's keeping you protected for now. But if you feel like that isn't the full truth of you, and something in you, no matter how small, is like, no, this can't be it, to feed that flame and to continue to put, let's say 25% of your energy at least there, or maybe 5% or maybe 2% is all you have the capacity for. But as you keep listening to, I don't think this is it. Don't think this is it. And follow what feeds that. So obviously you liked Byron Katie, and I loved reading her work. And when I was in my seeking world, the Reiki person I saw at the time, who was this like gorgeous yogi who ate smoothies and salads, and I was like, yeah, okay. That's not me. But, and it's funny because I do have like smoothies and salads. Anyway, so it's like these attachments we have. But she got me onto Byron Katie because I had these words are now out there, but anxious attachment, where like the boyfriend I had at the time, if he left, I would lose my mind, or I would just be afraid of him leaving me, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't receive the love because I had my own love I needed to find within myself. And she got me onto Byron Katie. The book was I Need Your Love. Is that true?
I listened to her podcast and I saw her live. And at first, I think everybody's like, yes, it's true. And then by the end, everybody's like, oh, I see. It's all me. It's up to me.
And it doesn't matter. The ontological approach. So me falling into ontological coaching was me trying to become a singer again. And my music agent at the time said, you should meet this guy who was in California at the time. I was 29. Skype was the thing. So I met him on Skype, figured it out. I was so chronically insecure that making mistakes would like destroy my world. If I made a mistake, it would trigger me and my shame so deeply. And I feel so much more healed from that, which is like, yay. And when I see it come up, I'm my own loving parent now that I didn't have. Like, you're able to construct so when you said I have everything inside of me, yes, you do. So sometimes we need to construct and participate with co-creation on looking at mentors outside of us. Oh, that person's really loving to themselves. I'm going to pay attention to that, or read this book that's about that. And then I'm going to create it for myself. So it doesn't mean you have it all now. It means you have the capacity to build it if you continue. And patience is a huge part of it. If everything's made up, which it is, your gateway to feel and see and know your own truth is a vibrational experience that then, like, I'm drinking coffee. So if I take the sip of coffee and someone says coffee actually tastes like Kool-Aid, I'd be like, no. And that's cool that you think that. Actually, no, this is how coffee tastes to me. And it's cool that tastes that way to you. And then once you feel truth, my point is, once you taste truth, no one can take it away from you. That's the best. It's like, I'll go to say an Archangel conference, and then I'll hear somebody speaking. And then if I don't agree with them, my truth matters. My wisdom matters. And I take the piece that I do like, kind of like shopping. I don't buy everything in the mall. I'm like, I like that hat. And I can also leave the mall and buy nothing equally, even if I'm shopping. And so we should do that. We should have discernment with, even if you're listening to me and you're like, I think that's bullshit, but I like this. That's your wisdom resonating and being like, blink, 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 blink. This is true for me. So to feed that more, to find more opportunities, animals are it for me. So watching fun animal videos or playing with my cats, they get me right back into me, my vibration. Back to your question about energy, we start to become insanely protective, but not guarded. Just really aware of, oh, that doesn't work for my energy. Oh, that feeds my energy. As you start to protect that and claim that, your whole world around you will start to change, which I call the hallways and the wobbles. So you've changed so much that being harsh to yourself no longer is an option. It just isn't. You look back at it and go, wow, being harsh with myself used to be my normal. Now, like, you can't even imagine it. When you say rise above or come out the other side in your languaging, that's what you mean. Like, you can look back at yourself and go, wow, that used to be the dominant thought in my head.
Right.
And now I'm this. Most of my clients have done all the doing. They've done all the things. They're very smart. They're very capable. And they're like distraught because everything's not working. Everything they've done up to now has ceased to work. And because they have to shed those things that have worked for them as well.
Is there something that we're all working on that we all need help with? Or is it just different for everybody because we've all had different pasts?
Oh, great question. No, it's the same. It's going to show up in the unique way of the uniqueness of the human at the time. But the same thing is always to so the pathway is to manage your mind so that it's not full of noise. It's actually, you could start to experience presence, or what, if you didn't have a TV and your phone and everything on, like, that's how most people's minds are. So once you start to clean that up through daily practices, so I have main daily practices that are incredibly pragmatic and easy to do, that other people like journaling, meditation, body presencing. Now, people will be like, yeah, I journal. And yeah. Like, this is very, like, this is like, that's great. Now you're going to do this. Because, the VP person who's been doing yoga her whole life. And then suddenly we do a body presencing, and suddenly she's felt her body for the very first time. And she's like, oh my gosh, I thought this whole time I was doing yoga. And she was, but her mind was doing yoga. So the common denominator is to come back to, like, it's like doing an iPhone reset. Just take all the crap off and then let who you really are start to emerge. And what people are working on is just what they call problems, whatever is keeping them from their fullest expression and their ability to experience their truth. And I can say truth with a capital T, because it is the reason I like shamanism versus my Roman Catholic upbringing, which I love that I learned all those stories and like sang those carols and all those things. But my BS meter from a very young age was like, there's just too many things that aren't adding up here, because they were created from the mind. I felt that from a young age and didn't understand it. I got in trouble a lot at Catholic school for just being like, that doesn't make sense. But nature made sense to me. So shamanism as a non-religious form of relating to life itself and relating to the animating force of life and the life that's shown physically here, and the interconnectedness of it all. And that if I'm connected to that, then I'm never not connected to that, was such a game changer. I was like, that makes sense. Okay. I love the saying, many rivers to the same ocean. I don't say, oh, here's the path. I say, no, your body is a receiver, and it does need to be connected to, and you do need to develop that skill because you've been taught this other way for so long. So we do need to reconnect to your body. Okay. We do need to connect to your heart space, because you just feel it as what I call the hurt space of years and years and years of old debris and pain that's been accumulating because you don't know how to turn your heart space on like a furnace and have it actually digest those emotions for you. You don't digest emotions in your mind. You digest them through the heart and the body. So that's the other thing. So most people that feel broken are trying to digest emotions in their mind, which is like digesting your lunch in your mind. Like, it's just not going to work. And it doesn't mean that you're broken because you're doing all the things. It doesn't. The common denominator is to find your own path to your experience, not your thought of truth, your taste of truth as you, and then to feed that more and feed that more. And then that which isn't you will fall away. And it's not aggressive or violent. It's really just organic. You're just like, whoa. Like, you just kind of find that relationship isn't really feeding me anymore. You don't have to have a breakup conversation with your friends. You'll just not be available anymore. You suddenly change shifts of work, or I had this happen so many times. Sometimes they come back, but as I'm resonating on my own vibration, that anyone around me, it's always all perfect. Just all of that attachment stuff starts to fall away and you can trust more. Your human self, my human self included, will be like, ouch, but I like my friend. And you might grieve things. It's good to be your self parent to your human self, because that innocent, vulnerable human that you are needs love and needs support. And they actually need it from you, the adult. And most people don't know how to create that adult too. So there's all this energetic stuff I'm talking about, but then I'm also a psychotherapist. So becoming your own strong adult that you probably haven't had modeled before, to your magical child that isn't wounded anymore, but when they're wounded, you know how to help it. And then you have your higher self. When your adult feels freaked out, you're like, I don't know how to pay the rent. Now you have your higher self. So your adult also isn't alone. And then they're all working together.
Yeah. That's cool. Have you ever heard of IFS?
Is that the internal family system?
Yeah. That just sounds like that.
I was taught inner parts work in the psycho. So it's very similar.
I just had a coach who was teaching me that. And there was a part of me that during sex with my husband was in the room with her arms crossed, tisking me. And until I did the work, I could see then that the person in the room was really trying to keep me safe, because I have been in vulnerable positions before. So having intimate relations with my husband, then I now think of her as a lovely elementary school crossing guard who just wants to keep me safe, and that she doesn't have to shoo out of the room, and I don't have to get out of my body. I can be present now instead of worrying about the lady in the corner of the room. So isn't that so interesting?
Yes. Yeah. When I work with my clients, because especially there's like the controller, the high achiever, the perfectionist, people pleaser, and then imposter syndrome. Those are their dominant experiences, challenges. Eventually you have a town meeting with all of these parts. And like your wounded child is over here. And then the question asker is over here. And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense. So they have glasses on. And you see the characters, right? Like your consciousness is this Pixar movie with all these characters, and they have information for you. And as long as you have them and they don't have you, is really the thing.
Yes, that's exactly it. And also to welcome them. And that was, I think, the key for me, is that all those pieces of me are there for me. They're trying to do something good for me because I need them.
I love that story. We start to see love as not this fairy book idea. Like love can come from weird places, like the way that some people within their capacity show love would look like abuse in some cases, right? So I work with a significant amount of sort of immigrant families, and the child of the first generation immigrants, what they're doing to protect their kid from a really scary world can later affect them negatively as control or this or that. But as soon as they're like, actually, this was the only way they knew how to show you love, because this was the world they saw in front of them. Generation and generation and generation, there's new opportunities that weren't there before, but those risks and those other threats are still very real in their consciousness. So how they show love, when you start to connect to truth, love can not look like a Disney movie anymore. It's literally unconditional. So that concept you can't get from your mind. Like you really have to like sink into your heart, surrender, and then you can feel it as a truth and not think it. Don't die with your music still in you. That saying.
My mother passed away at 46, and she was a fine artist, but she had 6 kids and didn't paint because she said she would do it when she retired. And so 100% don't die with your song inside of you. She never painted because she had 6 kids. And so I told that to one person that I worked with, and that day they started painting again because they were waiting. I'm a by the seat of my pants kind of girl, because I could die tomorrow. It's possible. I'm just not wasting any minutes.
No, and without any haste to do like, okay, I'm alive today on the planet. I'm going to experience painting, and I'm going to experience, like, to me, it's like, I actually paint wildlife, and I have a deep connection to the animal world that it just lights me up so much. And so how I, as my unique expression of creativity and aliveness, going to choose to live this life today is a luxury. So there's some healing that needs to happen on the way there to that capacity, but to just weave those things in, like sketching on the sketchbook, and to fight the voices in your head that are like, oh, what's the point? What's 5 minutes going to do? Boo, 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 boo. Like, like whatever the words that they're saying, just like, no, I choose this. And as you choose that, you actually develop power. You develop an inner power, that solar plexus area of like your power of how to be yourself in the world that you've obviously worked on. And then when you be you, right, it resonates out to others and you say some random thing that wasn't intentionally to do anything or fix anything or impress anybody. You're just like, blah, 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 painting. And that's the universe using you. So when you become tuned up and online, the universe can then use you for whatever that other person's needs are. And we come, or this collective that all help resource one another if we all get tuned in. And that's why that's such a passion of mine. Like my clients get there in 6 months to a year, and now you have your whole life.
I've probably been working on myself for the last 12 years, I would say, once I realized that I was the problem.
Or the common denominator.
The common denominator.
If I change this, the projector, right? The projector screen of what you're experiencing as your life, then I'll see change. Yeah, that takes a while.
I went to somebody, I had lent this guy all of my savings and he never paid me back. I woke up mad every day for a year. First thing I thought of, pissed off. And I went to this lady and she said, did he hold a gun to your head? And I was like, wait, what? I have to take responsibility for lending this guy my money and him not paying me back. And then I realized, yes, I do, because I kind of knew what kind of guy he was and I wouldn't get it paid back. And then I was no longer the victim of that. And that helped me take responsibility for everything. And that changed my life, taking responsibility for lending him the money. That started me sort of on my journey of, oh, what else? What else can I work on? And what else is my fault or responsible for? Yeah.
No. But like the way you said it's my fault there was that it had a lot of levity to it. Just like, that's on me. Yeah. A little bit like how we say it and the energy, right? So I hear energy. And I had a client who was like, why do we need, she's a real thinker. Why do we need bad stuff to happen? And no. She's just in her head. And I said, listen, if the benevolence of life could wake us up without the bad stuff, it would, but we're just pretty dense. And so we need that ouch, that like sting. Every so often I get all riled up because like, I feel like I need to say something and like this person's up there and they have like 1 million followers and blah, 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 blah. And then that is energy to act. So I actually love that when I feel like I'm not being seen. I'm like, I say to myself, well, you're not seeing you. So what do you need to do today to see you? If I think people aren't seeing me, or I think I'm not being understood, or people don't get how awesome I am or whatever. I share this because it's really just really real, but I run my business from my soul and intuition, and my clients come magically. They know who they are. They know I'm the person. And so that's really cool. But because my soul's like, time for a bigger stage, Jenna, I'm getting these like uncomfortable, fiery experiences that are meant to be turned into energy to create with, but they're uncomfortable in the moment. Like when you get these soul like smackdowns, it's meant to shake you up.
I think my worst fear is talking in front of a group of people. I can do this because it's one-on-one. And I am absolutely sure that I am supposed to start speaking.
That was really fun to watch your whole body tense up in a millisecond.
I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud, but I 100% believe it. And I'm ready for this horrible transformation or whatever it's going to take, because it's going to be hard. It's not in my wheelhouse at all. I have been told that for a while, and I keep saying, no, it doesn't light me up at all. But I just know that I'm supposed to now. So horrifying.
So comfortable speaking and so comfortable on stage, but I had to transform my what will people think small town stuff.
Is that what I'm concerned about? What will people think? I used to have a fear that I wouldn't know what to say. Nothing would come. But I can see through 80, I don't know how many podcasts now, that the words always do come. So that's not a fear of mine anymore.
And if you're a speaker, by the way, you write it beforehand.
Not all off the cuff. I'm an off the cuff kind of girl. Okay, I have to actually prepare.
Absolutely not. I have a few keynotes and you prepare, like me learning a song. It takes hours and hours and hours to go through every single note. So you're like laying the train tracks.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
When it's time for the train to go, the tracks are actually laid. So you're not up there like blink, blink. I don't know what's next. Like you have enough muscle memory in your speech, so to speak, that you can ride those train tracks. And so it's preparation is a huge piece that people think it's off the cuff, and it is not.
Okay. That feels really good. Thanks for saying that.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of See Beneath Your Beautiful, hosted by Hara Allison. And thanks for your ratings and reviews. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Stay tuned.